Good afternoon, and welcome to today's final session of our Education and Resource Summit 2025 by ALS United Greater New York. My name is Debbie Schlossberg, and I'm the Chief Care Services Officer here at ALS United Greater New York. I'm very happy to be able to facilitate this session with you today. In my 20 plus years working with ALS United, I've known countless individuals and families during their ALS journey. I've learned, and doubtless you've all been told, that no two people are exactly alike. So it was challenging for us to identify speakers who could sort of personify the ALS experience. Instead, what we have are two individuals, two very special individuals, who have agreed to talk about their very unique experiences. And it's our hope that through their words, there will be parts that will resonate deeply for some of you. For some of you, it may be newly illuminating. And for others yet, it may be affirming and we hope very validating. Now to our speakers. First, we have Desiree, Desi, Galvez Kessler. Desi was born in Peru and came to the United States at age 7. She grew up in Long Island and graduated from CUNY Baruch. She worked as an investment banker, and then after a while of that, traveled to Australia to reset. She reset so much that when she came back, she totally changed her career and started working in the hospitality space. Desi says that she's going to discuss how she felt when she was newly diagnosed with a tiny infant, because upon her return, Desi became pregnant, and then she had a baby, and shortly after that, she was diagnosed with ALS. She's going to explain how she found peace and happiness post-diagnosis, even though the first few years, in her words, were kind of dark and difficult. She's going to talk about how she spends her time being a mom, an advocate, and again, in Desi's words, an avid tequila drinker. Joining Desi is Dorothy Powell. Dorothy is a mom and a caregiver and a strategic wealth management associate for a financial advisory firm. When her partner, Sandy, was diagnosed with ALS 7 years ago at the age of 44, well, Dorothy just learned in real time how to be a caregiver while also raising a small child and managing the demands of a very rewarding career. Dorothy says that she does not have all the answers, but she has learned to take things one day at a time, to ask for help when needed, and to hold on to the moments of joy whenever and wherever they are. It's Dorothy's hope that by sharing her experience, it might resonate with others on a similar path. I want to remind you all that you can put your questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And I encourage you to use that rather than the Whova so that we can work on our answers. Lastly, before we move over to Desi, I do want to note that our third panelist, Paul, was unable, unfortunately, to be with us here today. Paul, we miss you, and we hope that you're able to watch your friends here carry the torch. And now, turn it over to Desi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Desiree Galvez Kessler, but everyone calls me Desi. Today, I'm going to tell you about my experience living with ALS. Next slide, please. So, I'm going to mention a little about my life before ALS and my diagnosis after giving birth, some of the things I did to cope, and finally, the importance of community when you have this disease. Next slide, please. But First, a little about me. I was born in Peru and moved to the States when I was 7 years old. I grew up on Long Island. I finished high school here, and I graduated from CUNY Baruch in the city and lived there until 2021. I love the city and I still miss it. I have always been outgoing, the party girl, and very positive. It's just my nature. That came in handy after diagnosis. I have also traveled a bit, and this is a picture of me in Paris being ridiculously American with a massive Starbucks in my hand. Next slide, please. My life before ALS was like many young professionals living in the city, fun and carefree. I graduated with a degree in finance, so my first job was an investment banker. After 3 soul-sucking years, I did what any practical young professional does. I emptied my 401k and moved to Australia for almost a year. I told myself I would find my real passion there, but the truth was there was a ton of beach and cute boys, so I went. After my extended vacation, I came back to New York City and found a job at a very fancy hotel. I was having a great time looking after celebrities and found my new line of work, hospitality. I also met my future husband Paul at the hotel. His office was located in the residences. So everything was going perfect, and I decided we should have a baby. So we got pregnant, and I assumed my happily ever after had begun. Next slide, please. I was having a beautiful pregnancy, but in my 3rd trimester, I noticed my right hand getting weak. Everyone, including my doctor, attributed the weakness to the pregnancy and reassured me after I gave birth it would pass. In November 2013, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Birdie. But a month later in December, my hand was not better at all. I made an appointment with a hand specialist and assumed I would go in, get a cortisone shot, and be on my way. Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. He took a look at my hand and noticed the atrophy and immediately made me an appointment for an EMG for the next day. It's hard to tell you what was going on in my head because I had a million thoughts. Am I sick? I just had a baby. I can't be sick. The next 5 months until diagnosis were a blur. You know how they say ignorance is bliss. Well, I can confirm it. My sole focus was Birdie and her milestones. I was breastfeeding while going through IVIG treatments. I only paid attention when at appointments, and they told me not to Google anything. I complied. It was denial for sure, but that was my only coping mechanism. I went through test after test. Do you know what it's like to wish you have brain cancer? Because with cancer, at least you have treatment options. I would pray, please, anything but ALS. Eventually, it sank in. I knew just the highlights and nothing more. Paralyzed. Terminal. No treatment. Next slide, please. So now I have sort of accepted that I have ALS. I thought to myself, okay, I might die soon. So how do I want to live the last few years of my life? I could be miserable and stay in bed, but I had Birdie now. I wanted my daughter to have pictures with her mom and memories that folk could tell her. But my brain still went to dark places. I envisioned Paul remarrying and Birdie having an evil stepmother. I figured I was going through a bit of postpartum depression, so I went on antidepressants. I have always been in therapy, so I found a therapist that was familiar with disabilities. By the way, she's excellent and can practice in New York and New Jersey, if anybody would like her contact. But I really just kept living. I kept hanging out with friends, attending family functions, and most importantly, making memories with Birdie. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes I felt like I was consoling others on my condition. I hit ALS milestones just as hard as anybody. You know them all. using the chair, losing my voice, the feeding tube, and that damn respiratory therapist that haunted me. Every decline in VC was detrimental. My official number is 11 now, but I still breathe comfortably. I wish I would have known that when I was sobbing at 50. Next slide, please. And now to my favorite slide. This is a collage of pictures of me and Bird throughout the years. I love being a mom. There are so many rewarding moments. But now Birdie is 11, and the sass on her would blow your mind. I try to remind myself to be grateful that I get to have the bad moments with her too. That it's not the evil stepmother. It doesn't always help. Now, Birdie has only had a mom with ALS. This is the only way she knows me. And that may be a blessing in itself, because it was her normal. And because of that, the question of how long Mama is going to live never came up. But just recently, I have started planting the seed. I mean, I don't want to kick the bucket and her to be shocked. During a conversation in the car, doing errands, I mentioned a friend that recently passed and how she didn't get much time. Birdie asked how long do pals usually live. I answered 2 to 5 years, and she asked why I was different. I explained that unlike most patients that keep getting worse, I stopped progressing in 2018, so as long as I take care of myself, I should be okay. Then she got very quiet, and I asked, "What are you thinking about, Bird?" She said, "I'm trying to figure out if you were lying to make me feel better or you were telling the truth." I said, "On the topic of ALS, I will always tell you the truth." She said, "Okay, good mom, because like, if you die when I'm in high school, that would be really annoying, like it would ruin my life, so try not to die then." Oh, my selfless girl. She's a trip. But either way, I am so glad that door is open, because if there is ever a decline in my health, I can be honest with her and prepare her. This may not be the universal approach for all children, but I know my kid. She likes to know what to expect. She likes to have a plan. Next slide, please. Finally, the subject of community. ALS is an incredibly isolating disease. When I was first diagnosed, the few pals I knew were much older and mostly men. There wasn't anyone I could relate to. Although I am very blessed with my support system, my family is incredible, the same with Paul's family. Both our moms are over almost every day. I have great friends too that would help me go to appointments or anything I needed. I'm very lucky to have this support, but without other patients to interact with, I still felt isolated. The first organization I met was United. Back then they were still ALSA. The team walks brought my entire community closer to me. And when the virtual support groups started, I finally met more women with ALS, not in a similar situation as me, but I didn't feel so alone. The next organization I encountered was Her ALS Story. This was a godsend to me. Young women, just like me, in the prime of their careers, just starting families or unfortunately facing the fact that they couldn't anymore. These were my people, some recently married, facing the same issues I was facing in my marriage. You may know that we take an annual trip together, but friendships blossom and I see them much more often than that. I also run partnerships for Her ALS Story, and contributing to something other than my home really gave me confidence again. It helped give me purpose and tribe. The third organization that made a significant difference in my life is Ride for Life. I volunteer as a presenter for school assemblies. We spread ALS awareness among schools, ask the students to fundraise for the cause, community service introduction for the young kids. But the best part of all is that we show children that whatever problems you have, you can overcome them. It's truly been one of the most rewarding experiences in my life. Children asking us what they can do to help. It's a beautiful thing to witness. Next slide, please. I hope my perspective gave you an understanding of how I process the ALS journey. I hope it helps you in any way possible. And I leave you with these wise words. It wasn't until I realized I was dying that I really began to live. And as hard as it may seem, be present. The past no longer matters, and the future is not something you can control. Live today. Thank you very much.
Are we good? Can you see it?
We're good, Dorothy.
All right, excellent. Sorry about that delay. My name is Dorothy Powell. I'm a caregiver for Sandy, who has been living with me in Jersey City for a few years now. I'm going to talk about strategies for caregiving while being a parent and also maintaining a career. So here is a picture of Sandy, who is my partner. He happens to be in the living room listening in, I hope. He was diagnosed in January 2018. At age 44, he was a manager at Charlie Brown Steakhouse, which is where he and I had met back in 1999. He is now currently trached. He's 51 years old. He was vented 5 years ago at the age of 46 in 2020. And as you can see, the sticker says it all. He is a professional homebody now. So just by way of introduction, we are a blended household. Sandy was previously married with 2 children, Aiden and Angelina, who were ages 8 and 9 when Sandy was diagnosed with ALS. Aiden is now a junior. He is 17 years old and is in high school. And tragically, Angelina was diagnosed with neuroblastoma at just 3.5 years old with pediatric cancer, and she bravely had fought cancer for 7.5 years before she passed away in 5th grade at age 10. I myself am also divorced with a daughter, Sage, who is currently in 5th grade, and in 2021, Sage had lost her father tragically to suicide. When we talk about caregiving, particularly living with ALS, the journey is overwhelming on many levels. There's no guidebook for any of it, and you just figure it out as you go. You become an advocate for them medically, emotionally, and logistically. My experience supporting Sandy and Sage and Aiden as well through 2 very unexplainable losses, while Sandy was also dealing with an unexplainable disease, has shaped my understanding of caregiving, not just practically, but also emotionally and spiritually. I thought I'd share this caregiving timeline. Basically, in the first 2 years of Sandy's diagnosis, it felt like a shoe would drop every few months. You can see that in the first 2 years, he went very rapidly between his diagnosis, the full use of his walker. He completely stopped driving, which meant he could no longer pick up his kids from camp or take his children to football games. And that's where our children met and spent time on the field, getting Aiden to and from his football games. And from there, I learned how to drive a wheelchair van. Little side story is that I actually never knew how to drive until I was probably about 36 or 37 years old. I didn't need to, living in Jersey City and being employed in New York. There was no need to drive. So the caregiving aspect of it forced me to learn not only how to drive, but also to operate a wheelchair accessible van. And from there, he went on to a feeding tube within 11 months, and then full use of his Tobii Dynavox in October 2018. Again, 3 months there, and then 3 months after that, he was declared nothing by mouth. He could no longer eat or swallow. And then after that, 1 month later, we lost Angelina at Memorial Sloan. And then about 6 months later, Sandy had gotten a tracheostomy, and then 16 months after that, Sage had passed away. So you can see that in the first 2 years, there was just a lot going on. Not only were we dealing with the ALS diagnosis, but also just life in general outside of ALS, and it was a lot. And as a caregiver, I've certainly learned a lot along the way. I think if there's any picture that captures the key to caregiving, it would be this one. Flexibility is truly the key. I think in the beginning, there's a desire to maintain everything that you once knew, to maintain your dignity as a patient, and also for a caregiver. I wanted Sandy to maintain his dignity as well, as much as he could for himself. I didn't want to do things for him, knowing that he was starting to decline. As a caregiver, I learned to balance what he really needed and really respecting his boundaries and maintaining his dignity as much as possible. And that was a bit of a tricky balance in the beginning. The irony is that the more open-minded you become, the more adaptable you become, and the more you can work with the circumstances that you're handed. Generally, letting go sometimes of trying to control things is actually the key to navigating such a difficult disease. These are some examples of what caregiving is like and what it has taught me. I think the first picture of Sandy taking care of Angelina at Memorial Sloan, this one is a poignant one for me. This one here is not only am I taking care of Sandy, but here Sandy's taking care of Angelina. And unfortunately, these were her final months, unbeknownst to us at the time. But Angelina really was the one that taught me how to caregive. And I really just dedicate everything that I know about caregiving to her. And actually having gone through the journey of taking care of Angelina with Sandy really actually helped me carve my way with caregiving for Sandy as well, and for Sage and Aiden. Getting the wheelchair van is, again, it taught me how to drive. It pushed my own boundaries, something that I didn't think I could do. Even in my mid-30s, I ended up pushing myself. And then here in the third picture, he eventually got trached. And with every shoe dropping, you just have to continue to learn and adapt, and you roll with the punches. I think, like what Desi had said, therapy is a very key component, not just for myself, but also for your children, if there are children in your family. And you're impacted by ALS. My own child, Sage, has been through therapy since she was 4. With or without ALS, I think therapy is a must, really, in any family. For a child to have a pediatric therapist, and for a child to be able to speak and think their own, separate from their parents and family members, and to be able to have a quiet, secure, open place to be able to speak their mind, is immensely helpful. And Sage is now 11, and she's extremely self-aware, and I attribute her years of weekly therapy sessions to building and forming who she is. And also, for the caregiver, to be able to have an outlet, someone to speak to other than family members. It's not easy at all. And if you're not in therapy, consider it, think about it. And finding the right therapist is also key as well. Here's a picture of Sandy in his Maplewood, New Jersey home. Thank you to ALS United. They had connected us with the Eli Reynolds ALS Foundation. Part of a caregiver also is making sure that accessibility, logistics are all there in place, and also getting ahead of the curve. Because ALS declines so quickly, it's so important that you're ahead of the curve at all times. This is a wonderful organization that helped us put this ramp together. And this was a video of him coming out of his Maplewood home for the first time after being literally trapped in there for months because of those stairs that you see in front of the Maplewood home. I'll get to the next slide here. Here we go. This is a picture of Paige.
It's called exercising range of motion. So you're going to break his fingers. You can't feel them anyway. You're going to break his fingers. Move. I don't think he can move any.
I love this video, particularly because it's pretty much how I felt. With every shoe that would drop, there was a grief associated with every loss, the loss of being able to speak, the loss of being able to eat, the loss of being able to go out. And the journey has really been difficult for Sandy and also for me. And it really just has taught me a lot of resilience along the way. I love that video because Sage just captured that moment as if it's been my last 5 years with Sandy. Oops. This one is a picture that I think all of you have seen. Put your own mask on first. Self-care is not an option, it is a necessity. One of the things that I have learned along the way is to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, which I know is much easier said than done. What I have learned over these past few years is that you absolutely have to carve time out for yourself, and you have to schedule it. If you don't schedule it, I often find myself not doing it. And one of the things that I do is every other week or every week, I'll go get a massage myself. I'll go out. When if going out is not an option, I'll find ways inside the house to do that. So finding inner peace at home, there are some simple solutions here, whether it's a foot bath and throwing some Epsom salt in there. And by the way, Sandy also, he uses this foot bath, and the caregiver can also use the foot bath. It's a win-win. On the upper right-hand corner is a mat that I actually recently purchased myself. It's what's called a biomat, and it's got these amethyst crystals in it, and it protrudes this infrared heat therapy, and it just does something to relax your muscles. And it's great, if you have pain. If you don't have pain, it's just a really great stress reliever to just lie on a mat and zone out. And the lower right-hand corner are these infrared light therapy. And my wonderful colleague Ruth actually bought that for me for Christmas, and I've been using it since. But whether you have pain or not, it's great. But typically people use it if you have aches in your muscles, which as a caregiver, I often do. And again, for the patient, it's great too, for ALS patient. And I use it on Sandy sometimes when he's in bed, and I'll put it on for about 5, 10, 15 minutes. And also finding peace outside. I think it's really important to connect with the outside. Nature has a way of just calming your mind. and just remembering that the world is much bigger than what's inside your house. I have the good fortune of living in Jersey City along the Hudson waterfront, where there are group walks. I'm also by Liberty State Park, which is where there's a lot of nature seminars that are going on. For example, in May, they're doing a horseshoe crab walk, and it's something that you can enjoy with your pals, or if you need some solo time to yourself as a caregiver and meet other people, you can do that too. And it is something that I plan on taking Sage with me. And speaking of Sage, as a parent, I can't tell you how many times I've been conflicted, trying to caregive and also take care of Sage as a parent. And one of the things, again, just like therapy, carve it out and make the time and schedule it in your calendar. I make sure that I find one-on-one time with her. In these situations, I'm going out to pick up litter with her. There's something soul cleansing about cleaning the earth and giving back, and just sort of thoughtless act of picking up garbage and spending time with your daughter or son. And I just really cherish those times with Sage. And sometimes when you're outside for a walk, it promotes organic, healthy conversation in ways that normally doesn't happen in my house until we go outside. The same with walking our dog Clover along the waterfront. You know, being outside, again, spending time with your children, and having therapeutic conversations, or asking about how you know, Sage is doing at school. And the other slide is her in front of a telescope, taking her out to the local astronomy club, and seeing the universe is also very just soul, just it's just really just a wonderful way to boost your soul. And I want to just take a quick moment to thank ALS United Greater New York here. They have connected Santa and I with so many resources, the walks, the opportunities to meet other wonderful people in the community. Attending the ALS Gala, where I had the opportunity of meeting Desi in person. She's so inspirational. I've heard her story a few times now, but each and every time I hear Desi's story, Sandy and I are just completely inspired. And I just also just want to take a moment to thank all the caregivers out there who give themselves with the utmost dedication and love. I know it's hard. It's really, really hard. But having a group of people like you and ALS Greater New York, friends, family, and all of these wonderful events that ALS United has connected us with is what helps every bit of the way. And my last slide, I leave with this picture of a photo that I had taken with Sage at Jenny Jump State Forest back in September at one of the astronomy club outings. And I love this photo because, you know, looking up at the stars and being able to gaze up once in a while, just go outside and remember how big the universe is. And there's just something about being able to gain perspective of the bigger picture. And it's just so peaceful to be able to enjoy the outside, whether it's with your partner or with your mother or whoever it is with ALS, being able to enjoy the time with your children. The sky is something that we all have in common to look at, and it's just very peaceful. So if you're ever needing calm, which is something a caregiver so needs. Just go out, look at the universe, look at the stars. And here's my contact information if anybody is interested in reaching out for any advice, guidance. I am here as a caregiver to another caregiver. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just say wow. um, you know, before we get to the questions that have come in, I want to spotlight the fact that there were also just a couple people who entered into the Q&A and into the chat, just words of thanks and appreciation for your presentations and for doing such a wonderful job and sharing your journey. I was trying to jot down as you were talking all these keywords, all these words of inspiration, quotes, but it was just coming too hard and fast because both of your presentations really were full of hope and inspiration. And you spoke about, I will go to some of the words, getting out of your comfort zone and being flexible and being honest and being hopeful and having perspective and being ahead of the curve and having connection. And then I stopped writing because truly there were so many pearls for me, and I know from our audience. But there are some questions. Some of them you've sort of addressed, so we'll dig a little bit deeper. But Desi, we were honored 2 years ago to be able to honor her ALS story at our gala. And you did talk about her ALS story and the importance of community connection. But I want to open it up a little bit more. Maybe Dorothy, you have something to say. Maybe your perspective is a little bit different about the ways in which learning from others and getting support from others has been beneficial to you on your journeys. Anybody want to start?
I'll start on that one for a moment. I think that one of the things that has helped me is asking for help. I couldn't do what I do without having the help that I have, whether it's someone caring for Sandy when I need to work, or having sitters that help me with Sage, having a dog walker that helps me walk, or dog Clover. One of the things that I've learned from others is that you can't, as a caregiver, expect to do everything on your own. As much as you might want to or would like to, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And in order for me to be the best self that I need to be, being able to delegate those tasks are extremely important in running any household with children and dogs, and maintaining your work and maintaining Sandy. Debbie, you know all too well that even now, I have Sage's wonderful sitter right next to me, just sort of helping me out with all the technical glitches, because tech is not my strong suit, but always having help is key.
With the Her ALS Story girls, first of all, we are always available to each other. We have many chats on WhatsApp. We have a main chat and then a chat for feeding tubes for eye gaze users, even a mom chat, and many more. Being available to each other at any time has been the glue that holds us together. When a mom is feeling down, she writes into the mom chat, "My kids saw me cry and I don't know what to say to them." immediately 2 or 3 moms reply with what they did or how they have a similar experience. And the sadness may not go away, but you don't feel so alone anymore. Your people catch you, and it's a beautiful thing. I wish there was something like that for the broader ALS community. One of the girls, Brooke EV, tried to form that on a platform named Slack, but I don't think it has caught on very much. And also the older pals don't love new technology. Maybe Slack wasn't the right platform. It was difficult for even me to navigate, and I'm pretty good.
Thanks so much. Along those lines, a question has also just come in asking specifically about support groups. What's your experience been attending support groups or not?
I, as a caregiver, have attended some of the support groups. It's wonderful to be able to connect and know that you're not the only one. ALS United obviously has been a wonderful support group for us. The other support groups have been Bridging Voice, which is another wonderful organization that has helped Sandy with his Tobii Dynavox. And ALS United's events with the gala and the ALS walk really has just been an amazing group of support for us, knowing that we're not alone, and to be able to meet people like Desi and other families who we've met really is just a great support for us to talk to. You know, I've met so many wonderful people and have now, you know, shared numbers with them, and you know, we use each other as sounding boards for different things. You know, what kind of van did you get, or what kind of food is he on, or and things like that. So it's the friendships that have culminated out of the support groups as well.
Yeah.
The same as Dorothy, it helps you not feel alone.
A couple more questions that talk about some of your specific roles that you've been talking about. First is parents. Now, I know, Desi, I was really touched by what you said about talking to Birdie and approaching her in a way that you knew made sense for Birdie. You know, like it wasn't necessarily what you read in a child development book or advice that you got, but you know your kid. And so you knew you had to help her plan and be really honest with her. I'm wondering also, because Dorothy, you mentioned therapy, and a question came in about that. So your experiences, both of you, with therapy for your kids. Dorothy, since you started talking about it, was it specific play therapy that Sage has been participating in? Is there something unique about it? How did you go about finding a good therapist? So I put that question out to both of you. Maybe Dorothy, you start.
Sure. So for therapy, we found our therapist through the school. The school will have normally great resources. I'm sure that there's, you know, I would think that they probably have a list. We were given a list of about 5 or 6 of them in New York City at the time when Sage was 4 years old at a private school. And I interviewed maybe 1 or 2, but right off the bat, you know, when you talk to somebody and you just know, you know, usually within the first 1 or 2 sessions, you just know if they're the right fit or not. And in this case, we knew early on. And what's interesting is that because Sage started therapy when she was 4 and now she's 11, which is a pretty big span in terms of the different phases that you go through as a child. You know, go from being a child to, you know, a bigger child to a bigger child, and now she's basically a full-on tween. And so as you go through the years, you know, the type of play therapy changes over the years, you know, where in the beginning it's just playing a game of Uno, and you know, the concept of winning and losing, and that it's okay to lose. You know, that playing a game is not always about winning, or, you know, with the dollhouse, and, you know, there's figurines inside, a mom, a dad, or a dog, or a baby, and how the child plays with those figurines. And, you know, is the dad inside the house? Is the mom inside the house? Or who's outside of the house? Or who's on the porch? And the play that comes out of that role playing is very revealing for children. And what's wonderful about it is that, you know, I have parent sessions with that therapist at least once a month. And it's a great way for me to be in tune with what's going on with Sage um, without head on talking to her straight out, which can be very uncomfortable for children. That coupled with the fact that I don't have the time as I would love to dedicate that piece of my day with Sage. I can't do that every day. I mean, I work, you know, I get up, I get Sandy out of bed, I get him ready and dressed before I go to work and get myself dressed and get Sage ready. And then I have a sitter pick her up. And I come home from New York City, maybe, you know, around 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes I've got evening functions. And before you know it, rinse and repeat. So who has that kind of time to connect, you know, and have those conversations with your kids? So play therapy is just a wonderful way, really, you know, for the child to have that one-on-one time with another person other than yourself. And the play is just so revealing to their state of mind and where they're at with things.
Birdie did play therapy and art therapy. I asked my therapist for names. Birdie has done therapy from 3 to age 9. We stopped recently because of extracurricular activities.
Right? Because normal life also needs to be had. So one last kind of big question, and that question has to do with your roles as partners. The question is, as a patient and as a caregiver, how do you tend to your relationship with your partner?
That also has to be carved out. As a caregiver, you know, I used to think that I could multitask and do 2, 3, 4, 5 things at a time. And I think you do have to make time, you have to carve out the time, but also when that time is not possible, to find ways to do it with your children. If you do have children, I think, you know, the quality time is so important, with your children, without your children, with your partner, without your partner, together as a whole. And there's so many different ways to spend quality time. And just like spending time for yourself, it all has to be carved out and it has to just be planned out. If you don't do it, it just, you're constantly in caregiving mode. And it's just, it's best to have everything planned out as much as possible.
That's a really difficult question because there are so many aspects involved in a partner relationship that getting a grasp on everything is tricky. When you first met your partner, you were equals and everyone had their own passions. When someone became sick, you became dependent on the other. My biggest problem with Paul in the beginning was that I was selfish. I'm sick, so do everything my way. That did not go over well. I had to make room for Paul in this disease, respect his schedule, his wishes, and his abilities. It wasn't just me, this affects both of us. The other part was I wasn't very self-aware. Therapy helped with this. Or sometimes Paul would express his wishes and I didn't hear them or they went over my head. The other thing that took me a while to realize was that I didn't want my partner as my sole caregiver. We were equals. Even though Paul is the person I'm most comfortable with, I don't want him all up in my business. I would still like to keep some mystery about me. And most of all, I wanted him to be my equal again. I can't depend on him for everything. I want a husband who can step in to care for me if necessary, but whose main job is being my partner.
Can't add anything. That said it all, both of you. Thank you. You know, you address the practical, you address the personal. It's all part of your journeys. It's all really sacred. And I know that I join our audience in thanking you so much. The the chats just keep coming in, thanking you. You're amazing. Thank you. Moving, inspiring. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. So at this point, again, I want to thank Desi and I want to thank Dorothy. There are many, many thanks that I want to share right now. First of all, I want to thank all of our speakers who've presented over the past 2 days. We really, really strove as a community to give you, our audience, a sampling of the people who work in our clinics and the people who are part of our community. This year, for pretty much the first time, all of our speakers are from our family. We often bring in big names from far away, but this year we really, really wanted to spotlight the care and expertise and brilliance of the people in our own family. So we want to thank everybody. I want to thank our wonderful team of moderators from the care services team who facilitated all of the workshops. I want to thank, of course, our sponsor, Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma. I want to thank you all, the audience, for carving out the time. Like Dorothy said, everything is about carving out time. One thing about ALS is spontaneity becomes a little hard. So thank you for prioritizing yourselves and your learning by joining us. I also want to thank our tech partners at Factor 101, and I really want to give a shout out to our Director of Fundraising and Special Events, Jordana Mueller, who really shepherded our care services committee through the planning of all of this with a very steady hand and with an eye towards excellence. Want to just remind you that we have a couple walks coming up, still ALS Awareness Month. On May 31st, we have our Westchester Walk. If you'd like to join us, it certainly is not too late. And on June 8th, we have our Northern New Jersey Saddlebrook Walk. So we hope to see you at our events. We hope to see you in our virtual space. We hope to see you here again next year. Again, biggest heartfelt thanks to Desi, to Dorothy, to all of our community. You are our family, and thank you for joining us.